when we heard very sad news that Michael Jackson had died. So much has been written and talked about in the week following that. We've got Ashley Pearson with us this morning. And actually, I think that the big question at the moment is when is the funeral? Because there was talk it was going to be today. Well, actually, even yesterday originally, wasn't it? They said Thursday. There might have been a procession. All the fans are gathering, but nobody quite knows where to go. A lot of people have turned up at Neverland. Some still in LA.
But they made an announcement now, haven't they, about the memorial?
It is going to be Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock LA time. But, there has been a lot of confusion, which is understandable. You're trying to accommodate an expected 1 million mourners who are going to show up to honor him in some way. And I think family members and organizers have just been trying to do this in a swift way, but also in a way that's practical and makes sense. I mean, yes, everyone wants it to be at Neverland. It made the most sense. There were several problems with that. California law does not allow for someone to be buried in a residential area like that. So they wanted to bury Michael there. They thought he would want that. Now that has not been possible. Also, Neverland is a very rural part of California. In fact, it's a 2-lane dirt road getting in there. So, accommodating all these people coming in and out was impossible. The organizers who organized this big thing at the O2 AIG actually owns the LA Staples Center. So it seemed to be a very natural place to have it. That holds 20,000 people. They're going to put gigantic screens outside so another 500,000 people can watch. But, it's ironic because this is where Michael, the same place he was rehearsing just before he died.
Well, there's this amazing footage that's been released of him rehearsing, which I think is just the day before he died. Now, the talk was in the papers we saw after the autopsy that he was just under 8 stone, he had a stomach full of pills, he was bald. Now, that doesn't really seem to fit with the image that we've been reading about.
He looks like 8 stone.
Well, he's always been very thin, Michael, but I mean, he looks full of energy.
He does look really slim, I agree, but he certainly doesn't look like he's a man who's, going to die within something like 24 hours or something of it. He's, and the other thing is, there's reports in the paper today that he intentionally overdosed in order to avoid the London concert. He was so stressed about it. Well, he was obviously preparing. In fact, he was packing when he died. So I think that, he was obviously planning to come and do, maybe not make all the shows, but do as many of them as he could. It's an incredibly
bad. I was reading yesterday, I think, with the photographer who's worked with him for years, worked on the Thriller tour, saying that he was so excited, and he said he spent time at that rehearsal, and he said, I just feel alive again.
Well, Michael was the consummate showman, the consummate performer. He was a perfectionist. Remember I was on talking about the demands that the company had made for his tour over here, and he wanted a certain number of people in the choir. He wanted the drummer to be a certain way. Like he's a perfectionist. And obviously, he was rehearsing. Even with the rehearsal, you don't have to do this much dancing in a rehearsal.
Yeah.
But he was really into it. He was enjoying it. I think he was looking forward to it, to be honest.
I agree with you. And often showbiz people say things for the red light, as they say, when the camera light goes on or whatever. And that looks pretty professional, pretty what you would expect to pay your money for and sit.
Yeah, I think he was looking forward to the concert. What is alarming, though, and what we're seeing in the papers today, I should say, since Michael died, there seem to be more questions than answers, really, that we're hearing, in terms of custody, in terms of the will, in terms of what killed him. And, all these drugs that they're discovering, they discovered on the premises. Now the Drug Enforcement Agency has been called in to help the LA police to investigate, because he had a degree of prescription meds that really, it was like it's described as a drugstore more than a home. And he had injection marks. There were all these things that are being reported. The drugs that he had access to, no one should have access to, no one should have in their home. They were in different names, not just his name. And really, I think what's emerging is the potential manslaughter charge against some of these doctors who were enabling what may very well be what ultimately killed him at such a young age.
Yeah. And the other stories that are emerging, it's quite interesting. Going back to the Thriller video, he was summoned by his church elders. At one stage, it was like he was brought up a devout Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
And this was seen to promote Satanism and occult and all that sort of thing. And they called him in and they said, you shouldn't be involved in all of this. And at one stage, he wanted to pull the whole video. We may never have seen it.
It's amazing. I mean, Jackson was brought up as a devout Jehovah's Witness. His mother, Catherine, who has now been appointed as guardian of his children, is also a devout Jehovah's Witness. But then, Michael became very enamored with the Nation of Islam. There were many reports that he had, in fact, converted to Islam. I think until the actual funeral, we probably won't know in terms of when we find out the way he's buried.
Religious connotation.
Exactly.
Talking about his mother, we're talking about custody of the children, which is a question a lot of people
she's older, and he has a lot of brothers, as we know, and of course 2 sisters. So 3 sisters, sorry. So there are other people that could take care of those children. That he went for Diana Ross.
What about Debbie Rose, the mother?
Well,
They don't even know Debbie Rose, the biological mother, do they?
what's so interesting about Debbie Rose in her custody now is that back when she and Michael were divorcing, she actually released a statement saying, "Look, I have no relationship with these children. I was just there to provide them. I did it as a service." She, in her own words, denied that she wanted or intended to have any kind of mother